Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Antaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samveda Bhaktivedanta ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Prabhupada. Chapter 3, text number 33, Karma Yoga. '31, '32, '33. Yeah. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sastram Chetasasvaya Svaya Prakriti Jnanavan Api Prakritim Yanti Bhutani Migraha Kim Akarsyasti Sudisam Chetasam Svaya Prakriti Jnanavan Api Prakritim Yanti Bhutani Nigra Kim Karyasati Sudisam Chetasam Svaya Prakriti Jnanavan Api Prakritim Yanti Bhutani Nigra Kim Karyasyasati. Word for word. Sudisam according Chetasta try Svaya by his own Prakriti modes of nature, Jnanavan learn it, Api although Prakritim nature, Yanti undergo, Bhutani all living entities, Nigraha repression, Kim what Kasyanti can do. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Prabhupada. Even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature. For everyone follows the nature he has acquired from the three modes of what can repression accomplish. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Unless one is situated on the transcendental platform of Krishna consciousness, he cannot get free from the influence of the modes of material nature, as is confirmed by our Lord in the 7th chapter, 7:14. Therefore, even for the most highly educated person on the mundane plane, it is impossible to get out of the entanglement of the Maya simply by theoretical knowledge or by separating the soul from the body. There are many so-called spiritualists who outwardly pose as advanced in the science, but inwardly or privately are completely under the particular modes of nature, which they are unable to surpass. Academically, one may be very learned, but because of his long association with your nature, he is in bondage. Krishna consciousness helps one to get out of the material entanglement, even though one may be engaged in his prescribed duty in terms of material existence. Therefore, without being fully in Krishna consciousness, one should not give up his occupational duties. No one should suddenly give up his prescribed duties and become a so-called yogi or transcendentalist artificially. It is better to be situated in one's own position, and try to attain Krishna consciousness under superior training. Then one may be freed from the clutches of Krishna's Maya. Om Agyanti Mandasya Gana Gana Salakaya Chakshur Milita Mena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapita Mena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachayine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatari Satarine. Okay, so everyone has to become a servant. So everyone has to become a servant. Show me anyone who is not a servant in the universe. If one has no one to serve, he becomes a servant of a dog. Why is it that people aspire to do government service? Because they get more facilities. So from this example of doing service, we can conclude that to become a servant of God is the highest service, because it frees us from bondage to this world. If one becomes a servant of God, he will become free from material bondage. If one serves dog, he will be affected by bondage. Even if one is not perfect in serving Krishna, but if one tries to serve Krishna, at one point he will achieve perfection. If one denies serving Krishna, he will become befooled. Just like this President Johnson, he thought that he was the leader, but now he got pulled down. Actually, he was a servant of the country. Same thing in family. The husband is serving the wife and children, and only master is Krishna. Everyone else is servant. In the material world is affected by the three modes of nature. Goodness, passion, ignorance. One who is affected by ignorance, he is taking intoxication, so he is servant of intoxication. One who is in meditation is thinking that he has become God, but then who is he meditating on? We can see in the past times of Krishna that even when he was 3 months old, he killed Putna. He did not have to meditate to become God. God is always God. Krishna is fair, and he's an ocean of mercy. But as long as we maintain about Krishna not being fair, not full of mercy, one will find it difficult to surrender to Krishna. So we can learn, this is part of a Prabhupada lecture, I copied. And in here we can learn um, some points on what it means to understand who Krishna is. Actually, by understanding Krishna fully, we become free from the miseries of this world. In this world, it says this material world is a prison house. And it says that demigods are in golden chains. The rich people in this world are in silver chains, and the poor people are in iron chains. So everyone is chained up. No one is free. So, the whole purpose of why someone is suffering in this world is because they misidentifying with the body. This is part of why material energy is there, to rectify our conditioned nature, so we can come to understand how we are not this body. And because the bodily identification is very strong, the scriptures are there to help us, and the saints are there to help us come to the right understanding how we are connected to Krishna. Actually, when we talk about Krishna, Krishna is never alone. Just like when we talk about a king or a government, when they go anywhere, they go with their secretaries, military, and like that. So when Krishna is there, he's with his associates, with his friends, with his father and mother, his servants. So, it's, from this understanding we can see how Prabhupada emphasized making the scriptures our eyes. So if we learn to see through the scriptures, then we can understand how Krishna is everywhere. So in the difficulty with modern day education is that they depend on mind-made laws. They don't recognize God's laws. And within that, they even don't know who God is as a person. They can't define him as a person. So the Krishna conscious movement has a mission to educate the masses of people to understand who Krishna is. And through education, in time, the modes of nature will, passion, ignorance will change to goodness. And from goodness, we can see more clear vision how to educate those who are sincere in approaching Krishna. In the purport to text 31, on this third chapter, the 31, 33, 32. Okay. So text 31, it explains how ye mam matam idam nityam anusyantati mahavida sadavanto nanusyanto murchante tapakamibi. Those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and who follow these teachings faithfully without envy become free from the bondage of fruitive actions. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The injunction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is the essence of all Vedic wisdom and is therefore eternally true without exception. As the Vedas are eternal, so this truth of Krishna consciousness is also eternal. One should have firm faith in this injunction, without envying the Lord. There are many philosophers who write comments on Bhagavad Gita, but who have no faith in Krishna. They will never be liberated from the bondage of fruitive action. But an ordinary man with firm faith in the eternal injunction of the Lord, even though unable to execute such orders, becomes liberated from the bondage of the laws of karma. In the beginning of Krishna consciousness, one may not fully discharge the injunctions of the Lord. But because one is not resentful of this principle and works sincerely without consideration of defeat and hopelessness, he will surely be promoted to the stage of pure Krishna consciousness. So, we can see from this example, Prabhupada is saying that if one is not working out of hopelessness, and he says, in beginning of Krishna consciousness, one may not fully discharge the injunctions of the Lord, but because one is not resentful of this principle and works sincerely without consideration of defeat and hopelessness, he will surely be promoted to the stage of pure Krishna consciousness. So so this example is, we are doing in the Krishna conscious movement, how we are doing Nama Ruchi, Jivodaya and Vaishnava Seva. So by continuing these activities, Krishna is very pleased. Because he says in Nectar of Devotion that actually to be the well-wisher of Krishna, we have to help the fallen souls. By bringing people back to Krishna, Krishna is very pleased. And in the Bhagavad Gita, I think 1868. Yeah. It says, idam te nirupakshasya niratasya kardachana na cha suna cha vichatam na chamayo bhavusyanti. This competent knowledge may never be explained to those who are not austere or devoted or engaged in devotional service, nor one who is envious of me. So, in the Prabhupada elaborates on this point, explaining how persons who have not gone austerities of the religious principles, who have never attempted devotional service to Krishna consciousness, who are not tender pure devotee, and especially those who are conscious of Krishna only as his historical personality, who are envious of the greatness of Krishna, should not be told this most comprehensive part of knowledge. It is, however, sometimes found that even Even demoniac persons who are envious of Krishna, worshiping Krishna in a different way, take to the professional explaining Bhagavad Gita in a different way to make business. But anyone who desires actually to understand Krishna must avoid such commentaries on Bhagavad Gita. But Prabhupada says in the purport that there are people who are innocent in this situation amongst the masses who are open for receiving Krishna's mercy. So this is why devotees go out their way to hold programs to give mercy to these kind of people who are ready to surrender to Krishna. So it is for this reason that from as members of the Krishna consciousness movement, it's our duty to understand how Krishna is very merciful to everyone. It's just because of conditioned life in the material world, people have forgotten. So it's the duties of the members of the Krishna consciousness movement to read Prabhupada's books very thoroughly. And in this way, we can educate people nicely to understand how Krishna is very merciful. And in this way, this conception of Krishna being unfair will be dismissed. And then full surrender can come to Krishna very easy. So, in the process of approaching that, next verse explains so in the next verse it explains why Krishna is pleased if we preach this message of Bhagavad Gita. He says, Ya idam paramam guyam mad bhaktesva abhigyasate Bhakti maya param kritva mam avasati asamsaya. For one who explains this supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotion service is guaranteed, in the end he will come back to me. Generally it is advised that Bhagavad Gita be discussed amongst devotees, only for those who are not devotees will understand neither Krishna nor Bhagavad Gita. Those who do not accept Krishna as he is, Bhagavad Gita as it is, should not try to explain Bhagavad Gita whimsically and become offenders. So anyway, in the translation, Prabhupada explains how, by educating people, how Krishna is very pleased and it's also explained how it takes many lifetimes to achieve piety, to come to the line of full surrender to Krishna. He said, Manushanam Saseshu Kashi Siddhaya Yatadam Apisidam Kashimir Tatavata. Prabhupada says in one lecture, out of many millions who endeavor on this path, only one will achieve perfection. So this is in the translation. Prabhupada said there are many thousands, but Prabhupada said in Kali Yuga there are many millions. So in that sense, to surrender to Krishna is not so easy. But the devotees, they make plans in such a way as to bring people to Krishna so they can fully surrender. So So just simply reading Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and serving those who are free from lust, we can have good vision in order to come towards understanding who Krishna is. Uh, so the human form of life is very rare. It's achieved out of, it says 8,400,000 species of living entities are there. And the civilized human form of life is very rare. And it's only in the civilized human form we can actually understand who Krishna is. So, example is given, just like sometimes a bird is, they put parrots in cages, owner puts the parrot in cages, and sometimes he lets the parrot out to go free in his own and just go wherever he wants to go. But the parrot comes back in the cage again. So it's in the same way, this human form of life we have achieved to become freedom from the material world. The freedom is given to us to actually leave the material world and go back to our achieving complete freedom in the spiritual world, in relationship with Krishna. But because we hold on to our conditioning, we hold on to our material attachments. So this is why we come back to the material world. But it says that Krishna consciousness can be achieved in 1 second, or it can take millions of lifetimes. It's a matter of accepting the fact what Krishna consciousness is. So, even if one is conditioned to not fully accepting Krishna consciousness, if one starts karma yoga by offering his food to Krishna, serving the devotees of Krishna, reading scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, coming for festivals, giving mercy to the fallen souls, in this way one will acquire spiritual piety. And this will actually, at some point in life, it will help one to commit more to Krishna consciousness. So, Prabhupada said, I've created these temples, they're like spiritual oases to give shelter for people who are suffering in the material world. So, by coming here to the temples and hearing the lectures, seeing the deities dressed every day, taking Mahaprasad, taking to the chanting of Hare Krishna, discussing scriptures with devotees, hearing the lectures, at some point one will get purified to the point where he will be fully able to realize who Krishna is. There's a story of how how Krishna responds to his devotees. Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, Ye yatama pampadyante tamsa bhajamyam mamani mandane manusham patasavasa. Everyone, as a surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects. So, one approach is that you're respectful to everyone and you try and help others on the spiritual path. And in this way you always try and guide others on the spiritual path. And the three things what Bhaktivedanta Thakur says, Vaishnava Seva, Namaruchi and Jivadoya. Chanting holy name and serving Vaishnavas, then this will help one towards the spiritual world. And we can see in the life of Tukaram, that's what happened also, how he worshipped a famous deity of Dwarkadish, Pandurang, and he was put through a lot of difficulty. His wife was not favorable to him, but he was very faithful to Krishna's instructions, and he used to be nice to people, to try and help them on the spiritual path, and never used to take offense. And in his life we find how there were instances where people were trying to cheat him of the things that he was selling as a business person to the people. They used to just cheat him and take the things away. So there was one instance how he was the people that took his things away. Then Krishna came to these people who had taken the things away, and Krishna quoted the amount of price what the people took things away from Tukaram and said, "This is what you own to this person. You can't just take things from a person. You can't steal things away just like that." And in this way they were forced to give the money, and Krishna came and gave the money back to Tukaram. So we can see how if someone is very sincere in their spiritual practice, how Krishna will definitely respond to them and look after them. And the other thing, about this deity of Pandurang, which is a 5,000 years old deity, is that there was one devotee, he was serving his parents very nicely. He was from a poor family and looking after them. And he was very nice to people and not being offensive to anyone and trying to help others on the spiritual path. And Krishna came from Dwarka. Rukmini went to see her family, and Krishna came there to see this particular devotee. And this particular devotee, he told Krishna, "I'm looking after my parents first. You can just wait outside." And he threw his brick for Krishna to stand on. And Krishna stood on that brick, and when that devotee came out, Krishna asked him for a blessing, and he said to Krishna, "May you stand on this brick and give blessing to everyone." So that deity is still there, Pandurang. So that shows how Krishna responds to his devotees. He's very grateful in terms of reciprocation with his devotees. So, but then he says, even more merciful than a deity form of the Lord is the holy name itself. If we practice to take to chanting very seriously, the material energy will not affect us. Example is given, just like for a good citizen, the policeman is a friend. But for the criminal, he will run from the police because he's broken the law. So, for the devotee, the material energy will not affect. It's only for those who are breaking God's laws that get affected by Maya. Because Maya is considered like Krishna's police agent. So now, to conclude the talk, in order to fully understand Krishna and serving with devotion, there are 5 kinds of offenses we have to avoid. 5 kinds of envy which come in the way of our service to Krishna and pure devotional service. So Bhaktivedanta Thakur explains these in Jaiva Dharma in chapter 8, text, page 117. First is skepticism, not having faith in God. Second is belief that the Supreme Lord is nothing more than a natural potency of creation which automatically brings about result of one's karma. Third is not believing in transformed form of the Lord. Fourth, not accepting the position of jiva as a servant of the Lord. And 5, the absence of mercy. So if we can understand these 5 points which Bhaktivedanta Thakur explains, then the path of pure devotional service will become easy to come to. And Prabhupada explains in his teachings in King Kuti lectures, he explains how the more we are free from envy, then that much we are there in the spiritual world. And the more we are affected by envy, that much we are there in the material world. So the opposite of envy is love. So if we begin to show love to Krishna's devotees and Krishna, envy will disappear in time. Antara Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.